All right, guys, in this video, I'm going to talk about why most people actually fail to succeed on Upwork. Why do most people fail to get a client through the platform? Now, if you're watching this, you're probably familiar with Upwork. You probably use the platform, or if not, you're thinking about getting started with Upwork. Nevertheless, you probably already know that Upwork is a competitive space, just like every other acquisition channel. And right now, the reason why most people fail is because they fail to do the things that I'm going to cover in this video in order to stand out and compete with other people on the platform. So the first thing and the most obvious thing is your profile most likely looks identical to everybody else. And what I want to do is I want to go through an actual example. So this is a client of mine called Mohammed, and what he offers is AI automation and NA10 automation and workflows for companies. So he basically offers AI automated solutions to help with their processes, which in turn helps them make more revenue. Now, there's a lot of things about his profile that I think are really well. And I've been working with Mohammed for quite some weeks, and we're doing really well for him, and his profile is in a very good state. So I'm going to talk through a few aspects as to why this profile is great. And the first thing is he's turned on his availability badge. Something as simple as this, I see a lot of people not doing, but this really increases response rates. And I know this because the agency I run, Upmatch, we manage currently 80 clients, and all of which we're helping them grow on Upwork. And I've seen the difference in data between a profile that has the availability badge on and ones that don't. And one thing I can tell you is it's definitely worth it because you will get more responses. It costs 14 connects a week to turn this on, so there's a very small fee, but you'll get a lot more responses, and it will likely allow you to close more clients per month. And so turning this on, this small change can make a massive difference. Now, the reason I say most people have profiles that look identical to everyone else is because they literally copy word for word other people in their niche. And you need to have something that stands out. And one of the best things you can do is have a title that's slightly different to the others and have an opening line in your profile description that's different to others. Now, the opening line that you want in your profile description needs to be something that sells the result of what you've generated others, not what it is you do in actual fact. So instead of here for Mohammed to say, he could have said, I'm an AI automation specialist and I can create workflows and automate workflows for NA10. He could have said a matter-of-fact statement of what he does, but instead he sold the result of what he's generated. He's generated $276,000 US in 3 months for a company called Monster Energy, which is a very famous brand. $20,000 added in 3 weeks for an auto shop. 5.5 million raised for a startup. This is selling results. And this is why people come and look for AI automation for sales or lead nurturing or revenue workflows, is because they actually want this. They don't want this. And that's why it's important in the opening of your profile description is to sell the result. And you should word this in your own way. You shouldn't look at how other people have done it. So in my case, when I was freelancing on Upwork, I would offer meta ads management services. And my opening line, instead of saying meta ad specialist, 7 years experience, I would say generated 60K revenue for Mercury Holidays, generated $42,000 for Gloss Kitchens in the first 2 months. That's me selling the result. And now I've hooked them enough for them to want to continue reading the profile description and to look at the rest of my profile. So stop having generic things on your profile where it's just copying other people. Start thinking creatively. I've seen very creative opening lines in profile descriptions. In fact, my favorite one was an old client of mine called Savam who offered email marketing services. And he said, I guarantee you an additional 5 clients in the next 2 months, or I will work for you for free until I get that. That's an interesting opening line on Upwork. You don't tend to see that a lot, but that offer helped him get a lot more responses. So you have to be creative with your opening of your profile description. Next is your portfolio. Most people don't put anything in here. And if you put nothing in your portfolio, you're missing out massively. This is one of the most important parts of your profile, is showing that you've done work in the past in this niche to show that you're experienced. So adding 2 or 3 things in your portfolio goes a long way. And by designing the thumbnails in Canva, you'll set yourself ahead. You could see here, Mohammed has designed this thumbnail, which probably only took 5-10 minutes inside of Canva, but it makes his profile look more professional. So definitely take some time to make a really nice looking portfolio thumbnail and put things in here. And aside from this, adding certifications, employment history, you can do to fill out your profile. You just don't want it to be empty. But I would say the most essential things that most people fail with is having a good opening line for a profile description to hook them, a good title to help you rank, right? You want the right keywords to help you rank for the right things, and turning on the availability badge. And that can help you at least separate from the bad quality profiles that exist on Upwork, setting you ahead. The second thing is your proposals are probably lazy and generic. You need to stop doing proposals where it's like, I can definitely deliver what you're looking for. My name is this is what I do. That's way too generic. Nowadays, I've learned that short and sweet proposals perform a lot better, where something like this person wanted an NA to N expert developer for their project. And you can see here, I made this Loom video for you. This is one of the best opening lines I believe you could possibly do. You can see the cover letter is short and sweet. I see you need an NA10 developer for pre-sale support and automation. I love this type of project, exactly what I do. I've delivered clients ready POCs and stable AI automation for my previous clients with good results. Happy to get started immediately. So it's short, sweet, and to the point. But the main value of this cover letter is actually the Loom. Because when most people read this cover letter, they're going to click on this Loom. And now Mohammed's had the opportunity of introducing himself in a way that separates himself from others. Because without the need of getting on a call with him, you now know how he comes across. He's had the opportunity to pitch you for about 3-4 minutes, talking about what he's done in the past for other clients, what he's generated them. He's shown results. And now you've set yourself ahead. So what you don't want is to have lazy and generic proposals that aren't personalized. You need personalization to succeed on Upwork today. It's absolutely essential. And one of the best ways to do it is to do it on a Loom video. And keep your cover letter short. You don't need a cover letter that's 2-3 paragraphs long. It's not necessary. The third is you apply to the wrong jobs, and this is a big one. There are things that you could look at from the client before you've even decided to bid on the contract. So you can see that we bidded on this one on behalf of Mohammed. And this client, number one, is based in the United States. Number two, has very good reviews, 36 reviews total, 4.99, like basically 5-star. They have a payment method attached, which means that this person who has posted this contract has their card attached to the Upwork account, which signifies that they're more likely to become a paying client because they're serious about Upwork. Otherwise, they wouldn't have attached their Upwork profile. But on top of that, they've spent $273,000 through the platform. This is somebody, a potential client who's very serious about working with people. This isn't a startup business, clearly somebody who's experienced, who has spent a lot of money on the platform. And this information here tells us that this is a very good prospect. And you can see this across every single contract you decide to bid on. So if we want to look at this, we can see that they've already spent $100,000. They've got very good reviews. They're based in the United States, which is obviously a more developed economy. So there's higher rates that you can charge places like the United States versus countries in like Eastern Europe, which is going to be difficult to sign for the same amount of retainer for a lot of the clients on Upwork. 106,000 total spent, 63 jobs posted, 97% higher rate. You can actually look at this data to find verified good quality prospects, so you're applying to the right jobs. Bidding on jobs is not just about what they say in the title and the profile description, it's also about looking at the client's information to see if they're actually a good prospect. Next, you're awful at sales. Now, this is a big one because I've spoken to a lot of people who actually book in a lot of meetings through Upwork, let's say 10 to 15 calls a month when they're starting out, and they fail to close anybody. Now, that's no longer an Upwork issue. That's no longer a contract bidding issue. That's a sales issue. And I'm going to tell you exactly how I would structure the sales calls so you don't have to approach it in a way that's going to have a low conversion rate or a low close rate. And so a sales call structure should be really simple, right? You've booked in a call on Upwork chat. You're going to start off the call with a bit of small talk. Hey, where are you calling from? Awesome. I've been there once before in 2010. I loved it. Whatever it is, break the ice. It might take about 30 seconds to a minute. And then you want to set the tone. And setting the tone basically means that, and this is how I do it, I would say, look, the way I usually like to structure these calls, I like to start off by learning a little bit about the project, a little bit about yourself. I'll ask you a few questions, and then I'll tell you about what it is I do and my experience, and we'll see if we're a good fit. Now you've set the tone. Now they can expect that for the next 5-10 minutes, you're going to ask them questions about the project, and that's where you enter the discovery. The discovery is the most essential part because if you ask the right questions, you will build authority, and the other person on the call will very much notice that you are understanding their problem because you're asking the right questions. So really listening to them and understanding their situation, their position, why they wanted to get you on the call, why they posted the contract is going to help you close. So you need to ask the right questions and you need to listen very carefully. And you can question things that they've decided, right? So if they told you that they decided to launch Meta ads to grow their business, but the Meta ads didn't perform, you can ask what type of ads they launched. And looking at the ads, you might have said, why did you do image ads? Why not video ads? Questioning them will make them realize that you understand what it is they're saying and validate that you're following their trail of thought. And then once you've done with the discovery, now you want to slightly introduce yourself in a way where you're building up credibility more about your experience. And the way I'd usually do this, I'd summarize and say, okay, cool. So I have a really good idea on what it is you're looking for based on the things that you've told me. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've been a Facebook ad specialist for the past 7 years. I've worked with brands like Gloss Kitchens, Mercury Holidays, companies just like yours. And so listening to the things you're telling me about what you're doing, I really think I can help here. And this is what I would do if we were to collaborate. And then I would go in and actually pitch the way and the strategy of how I would go about their project. And usually at the end, then you can just quote them and negotiate a price, and that's the end of the call. This is a professional way to conduct a call. What you don't want to do is go in and say, yeah, I charge $1,000, let's do it. That's not the way to do it. You have to go in, build some small talk, some rapport, do the discovery, ask the right questions, and then basically pitch yourself, and this is a moment of introduction, and then tell them what you would do for them to improve their current situation. And that's basically how to conduct sales calls. I highly recommend you have a very clear structure so that you get better at this. But if you're booking in calls through Upwork, but you're getting on the calls and you're not closing them, you have to improve the way you conduct those calls. The next is not having a systematic approach with bidding. So a lot of you guys, you'll bid on contracts one day, you'll bid on 5, 10, 15, 20 contracts, and then you won't bid again for 4 or 5 days. And then you'll bid again on the 9th day, and you'll bid on 10 contracts, and you just have absolutely no system. When I was on Upwork, every single day without fail, I would bid on anywhere from 10 to 20 contracts without fail, Monday through to Sunday. And I did that for at least 4 or 5 months without fail. Now, the first 2-3 weeks, you're not going to be profitable because you're spending money on connects, and there's a buffer period before you close your first client. But what ends up happening is you get into a rhythm, you're booking in consistent calls, you're getting better at those calls, and you're closing more than you're spending on connects. But you have to have a system. You can't just expect to bid on 10 contracts a day and not bid for another week and have a profitable experience. Upwork has an algorithm that can see whether you're active on Upwork with your bidding, whether you're consistent with your outreach, and it helps you rank. You have to have a systematic approach to compete on Upwork today. And the final thing is you give up too fast. And this fits into number 5. If you decide that you're going to bid on 5 to 10 contracts every single day without fail, but you stop after 10 days, then you've given up too fast. You need to give Upwork an opportunity to present to you the power of it, and you're not going to be able to make it work just if you give yourself a 7-day window. The longer period of time you give yourself, the more chance you're going to be able to pull it off because you're putting in more work over time. And so this is the 6 reasons why I honestly believe most people aren't closing clients through Upwork. Your profile either looks too generic, your proposals are lazy and boring and not personalized, you're not applying to the right jobs with the right prospects because you're bidding on contracts where the client has a brand new account, doesn't even have a verified payment method attached. You might be awful at sales and you're not conducting the calls well. You have no systematic approach to the actual bidding and outreach on Upwork, which is very important because without the outreach and bidding, how can you expect to get any clients? And the final one is giving up too fast. Upwork is a very powerful acquisition tool, and a lot of you probably know that it is competitive, of course, but so is every other acquisition channel. Whether you do Facebook ads, LinkedIn outreach, cold emails, cold calling, every acquisition channel is competitive, and you have to figure out a way to compete. And if you're not doing these, then you're not competing efficiently.